So TNA Impact was a live show in Tampa, Florida. And the show starts off with Hogan. Now that is a sentence that I am saying way too often when I do an analysis. Yes, I know that Tampa is his hometown, but I don't care. Hogan tells the crowd that it's great to be back in Tampa, and he plugs his beach shop and says that he had a couple of beers with Shark Boy at his beach shop. And Hogan acknowledges AJ Styles possibly choosing to join Aces and Eights, but he pretty much considers that an insignificant issue. Hogan talks about the one man that has always been on his side no matter what, and that man is Sting. So Hogan calls out Sting, and Sting comes out. Hogan tells Sting that the stipulation of his never getting another world title shot if he loses to Bully Ray at Slammiversary is not needed because Hogan is the GM. But Sting tells Hogan that he wants to keep the stipulation in because he's the one that told Hogan to trust Bully Ray, so he has to take some of the blame. Sting talks about taking the title, thus taking the power away from Bully Ray. And then Hogan repeats that he is the GM and Sting does not have to go through with the stipulation. Then Hogan's daughter comes out. However, there was no buzzing. There was no buzzing because I put the TV on mute. And I changed the channel. I figured, why would I even bother making the effort to try to make out what is being said through the buzzing when it probably isn't anything significant anyway. And then, after the show is over, I go online and I read the recap of the segment, and I was right. There was nothing significant that was said. So there's nothing to say about the segment. So then we see a video segment of Suicide, and the promo states that he is coming up next. So then we have the X Division qualifying match. Suicide versus Petey Williams versus Joey Ryan, with Kenny King doing guest commentary. Decent match. But it was an unnecessary match because Suicide is already in the championship match at Slammiversary, the Ultimate X match, with Kenny King and Chris Sabin. But the commentators treated it as if, as if they didn't even know this information that they revealed last week, by the way. You got Todd Kennelly saying during the match, the winner of the match will join Kenny King and Chris Sabin in the Ultimate X match for the X Division Championship at Slammiversary. Well, the winner is already there. And then after the match, you have Mike Tenay stating that Suicide moves on to the championship match at Slammiversary. He doesn't move on to anything. He's already in it. And it just makes me wonder about the lack of communication that is going on during these production meetings. I mean, TNA announced last week that Suicide was in the championship match, the X Division championship match at Slammiversary. So don't you think that would have come up in the production meeting? We mentioned that, so why are we going to act as if though we didn't? But that's exactly what the commentators did. They acted as though that announcement wasn't even made. Now, I don't know what happened. Was it a mistake to do? I don't know. But it should have been cleaned up where you don't have your commentators acting as if Suicide had not qualified when he did. So why didn't someone say something during the production meeting? That's something that could have been covered up very nicely. If you had bothered to do so. So then we see Chris Sabin, and he approaches James Storm backstage, and Sabin references that James Storm is looking for a tag team partner, for the World Tag Team Championship match at Slammiversary. Sabin mentions that the two greatest tag teams in the history of TNA were the Motor City Machine Guns and Beer Money. So Sabin offers his services, but Storm tells Sabin that he has a chance to become X Division champion and possibly World Heavyweight champion, and he should concentrate on that. So then Storm tells Sabin that he will return the favor someday. Okay. Well, obviously Sabin's going to become the X Division champion, but his becoming the World Heavyweight champion, I really don't see that happening. Has nothing to do with his talent. It's just, if you're talking about the overall presentation, I don't think Sabin has enough where he would be put in the position to lead the company as the World Heavyweight Champion. X Division Champion, of course, but World Champion, no. So then we see Bully Ray and Hogan's daughter backstage. So then we see Velvet Sky backstage, and Velvet Sky is wrapping up her injured left knee. Mickie James comes in and she sits down next to her and she asks Velvet how the knee is. And Velvet says it's fine, she's going to go through with the match. And, Mickie says that she could go to Hogan's daughter and have the match postponed so that, Velvet can be 100% when they meet. And Velvet says that nothing would make Gail Kim happier than to have her sit out the match. And then Velvet references her left knee, saying that Gail Kim did this to her and she won't give Gail the satisfaction. So then Mickie makes sure that Velvet wants to go through with the match, and Velvet says yes, and they hug each other, and then Mickie leaves and Velvet goes back to wrapping her left knee. The wrong knee. Remember, when Velvet mentioned that Gail Kim did this to her, she referenced her left knee, but Gail injured her right knee. Now, how does TNA allow Velvet to sell the wrong knee again? And once again, this is another example of a botch that was not covered up. I mean, what are they discussing during these production meetings? If you had gone back and reviewed the video, you would have seen that Velvet's right knee was the one that Gail Kim injured. But then you have her wrapping the left one. Why didn't you just say, well, Velvet's having trouble with both knees, and then you could have covered everything up? But you have her go back and wrap the left knee when it was the right knee that Gail Kim injured. Okay. So then we had the gut check semifinal match. Alex Silva versus Sam Shaw. And the winner would go on to face Jay Bradley to see who moves on to the Bound for Glory series. Okay, Sam Shaw comes to the ring. But when Alex Silva is introduced, he doesn't come out. Instead, members of Aces and Eights comes out. Wes Briscoe, Garrett Bischoff, and the Director of Chaos. And Briscoe gets on the mic and tells Sam Shaw that he beat up Alex Silva in the parking lot, and he says that he should have been in this gut check mini tournament. So then the Aces and Eights members come into the ring and they jump on Sam Shaw and they start beating him up. And then Magnus comes out and they all leave. So one guy chases off three guys. Of course. So Magnus gets on the mic and says that, you know, he and Shaw are good friends. They go back to when they were both in Harley Race's wrestling camp. And, you know, he says that Wes Briscoe has made this personal and that Briscoe never belonged in the tournament. And then Magnus challenges him to a match right there. So we have Magnus against Wes Briscoe. Okay match. The match ends with Magnus appearing to come off with the elbow drop on Briscoe, but then he's attacked by Director of Chaos and Garrett Bischoff. And then they all start attacking Magnus, you know, continuously. And then Samoa Joe comes out, takes out all three members of Aces and Eights, and Magnus gets the win by disqualification. Now, it was good to see Magnus and Samoa Joe together again, and some people have talked about them, you know, being a tag team again. Now, I'd still like to see Magnus get a push as a singles wrestler and see Samoa Joe become a title contender again. But if it did happen, if they became a tag team again, I'd be fine with it because tag teams are sorely needed in TNA. Now, Alex Silva. Now, I found out that he had some travel issues which did not allow him to arrive on time, which is the reason why he was not there. And I guess because of that, Sam Shaw immediately moves on to the final against Jay Bradley, which will be at Slammiversary. And the winner of that match will go on to the Bound for Glory series. And I think it's, well, I mentioned this last week. It's a formality right now unless something ridiculous happens. So hopefully the ridiculousness does not happen and Jay Bradley moves on to the Bound for Glory series. I can't even say that being a sure thing knowing TNA, but that's what should happen. So then we have Aces and Eights backstage. No, actually, we had a video segment on Sting being inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame. And basically, it was just a little promo to kind of get things stirred up as far as who should be inducted next into the Hall of Fame. And I think it should be Jeff Jarrett. I don't care what you have to say about him as a competitor or as an individual. The man co-founded the damn company with his father, Jerry Jarrett. So there is no reason why Jeff Jarrett should not be inducted. I thought he should have gone in last year because of the fact that he did co-found the company. So there should be no excuse this year as to who should be inducted. And it better not be who I'm thinking, because that would be the most ridiculous bullshit What am I saying? What am I saying? It probably will be him. So the Aces and Eights are backstage, and Bully Ray congratulates Briscoe and congratulates Garrett and DLC for backing him up, and basically they're all looking forward to patching in AJ Styles. So then we see a video segment of Kurt Angle in New York at an amateur wrestling event, and basically this segment was dealing with Kurt Angle's efforts to save Olympic wrestling. The International Olympic Committee has recommended that Olympic wrestling be dropped from the 2020 Summer Olympics, and I think February they recommended that, and I think in September the final vote will be made. And obviously it's a terrible decision, and hopefully Olympic wrestling will be saved. So then we have Kurt Angle versus Mr. Anderson, and before the match starts, AJ Styles arrives at the arena on his bike. Good match. Basically, the sequence leading to the end of the match, Kurt Angle, which is barrage of German suplexes. Then he attempts to go for the ankle lock, but Anderson kicks him off. He delivers the mic check, but Angle kicks out. And then Anderson goes to the top rope, and Angle jumps up onto the middle rope and suplexes him off the top rope. And then Angle pulls down his straps. And then AJ Styles comes to the ring. Taz hugs him, but AJ doesn't return the hug, just kind of slaps Taz on the back. And then Kurt Angle sees Styles, thus turning his attention away from Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson catches Angle with a low blow and rolls him up for a 3 count. Mr. Anderson gets the win, and then AJ Styles leaves. Okay. Nice build up as this storyline continues toward the AJ Styles patch in as the newest member of Aces and Eights. So then we see Gail Kim backstage, and she's talking about her match against Taryn Terrell at Slammiversary. I understand this is a last woman standing match. And Gail talks about all the women that she has taken out, and that she should be the one getting the title shot against Velvet Sky on the show. And then Taryn Terrell comes racing into the camera shot, and she knocks Gail Kim through a door, and then she throws her into the wall, and then she throws her onto the table, and then Gail Kim gets away and runs off, and some guy's holding Taryn Terrell back as Gail Kim calls her crazy. Alright, this was alright. I mean, it was brief but effective mini brawl. building up to this last woman standing match. I just wish Taryn Terrell didn't scream so much. Don't have to scream that much. But the segment was fine. So then we see a video segment basically documenting James Storm's tenures with both America's Most Wanted and Beer Money. So then James Storm comes out, and you have Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez sitting at the commentators table for some unknown reason. And James Storm basically says that, you know, he was granted a World Tag Team title shot with a mystery partner at Slammiversary, and he mentions, you know, being with America's Most Wanted and Beer Money. And then Robert Roode and Austin Aries come out, and they're standing at the entrance, and Roode takes the mic and basically says that, you know, he is the king of tag team wrestling, and that his 4 years as a member with Beer Money were the worst 4 years, not only for his career, but the worst 4 years of his life. But he said that cracking the beer bottle over James Storm's head and winning the world title was one of his proudest moments. And then Roode wants to know who Storm's partner will be. And then Bad Influence come out, and they're standing right there next to Roode and Aries at the entrance. And Daniel says that they proved that Roode and Aries couldn't beat them, and that Chavo Guerrero have been, you know, extremely lucky. And then Kaz takes the mic and says that they were offended by Storm not joining them. And then he says that a lot of people around here lately have claimed to be offended. And then he turns in Austin Aries' direction and says, have they not? And of course, this was an obvious reference to the Christy Hemme Austin Aries situation. Now, I will give TNA credit for not putting the camera on Aries to get his reaction. We didn't need to see his reaction. No. Just let that go. And then Cass goes on to say that it doesn't matter who Storm picks as a partner. And then Storm is about to talk about who his tag team partner will be, and then this segment got absolutely ridiculous. Shark Boy comes out and does his pseudo Steve Austin shtick as he tries to convince Storm that he should be Storm's partner. And then Robbie E comes out and makes his case to be Storm's partner. Then these two idiots start arguing with each other. And then some form of sanity returns when Gunner enters the ring. I have to admit, Gunner looked tough as fuck. And Gunner proceeds to destroy both Shark Boy and Robbie E. And then he stands before Storm, and Storm tells Gunner that he'll see him at Slammiversary. So, you have your four-way elimination match, or four-team elimination match, I should say, for the World Tag Team Championship. Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez defending against Robert Roode and Austin Aries, Bad Influence, and James Storm and Gunner. So then we have Sting and dumbass Joseph Park backstage, and Sting says that Hogan has set up a match for next week. Bully Ray and Devon versus himself and a partner of his choice. Okay. Sting wants Joseph Park to get Abyss to be his partner for that match. And then Sting says if Park can't get Abyss to be his partner, then he wants Park to be his partner. I can't even believe I just said that. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. It's TNA. Yeah, I can believe it. So then we had the Women's Championship. Velvet Sky versus Mickie James. This match was so-so. A lot of sloppiness. There were a couple of instances where there was confusion as to what was going to be done, and basically the match ends. Velvet did her spinning head scissors move on Mickie James, and it appears to land on her injured left knee. So she's selling the left knee. That's the one she was wrapping before. She said that Gail came injured, even though Gail injured the right knee. Velvet tries to stand up, but then Mickie clips Velvet's leg from under her and then delivers a short DDT, gets the win. Pretty anticlimactic once Velvet started selling the injury. I mean, you knew the inevitable was going to happen. Nevertheless, Mickie James is the new women's champion. No heel turn, but there were subtle tinges. I figure that when TNA is done pushing her country music album, the heel turn will likely come then. So then we had a video segment which basically just recapped, AJ Styles, during this dark turn of his, which of course leads into the induction of Styles as the newest member of Aces and Eights. So the members of Aces and Eights come to the ring. And Bully Ray goes through his, do you know who I am spiel. He says that no one guy of the group is more important than any other guy, that everyone is treated equally, and that when someone screws up, he pays for it. And of course he references D'Lo Brown. But then Bully Ray mentions how much Mr. Anderson has stepped up, and he acknowledges that. And then he says that tonight is about AJ Styles. So he calls out Styles. Styles comes to the ring, and Bully Ray says to Styles that he knows that the power in the company is with Aces and Eights, which is the reason why Styles should join them. So then Bully Ray wants AJ Styles to have a drink with him, and they clink beer bottles together and drink. Bully Ray tells Mr. Anderson to give AJ his colors. So Anderson presents Styles with his Aces and Eights vest. And then Kurt Angle comes out. And Angle says that Styles' legacy is in the toilet if he joins Aces and Eights. So he asks AJ if this is what he wants. Styles puts on the vest, and then Bully Ray hugs him, and then Mr. Anderson hugs him, and then Devon hugs him, and then all of a sudden we see Angle suddenly come into the camera shot as if someone threw him into the ring, and then we see Director of Chaos come into the shot, because if you notice, he wasn't in the ring before, so obviously he attacked Angle from behind. Anyway, Angle's in the ring now, and DLC and Knox are going to town on him. And then they hold Angle up. Bully Ray gives Styles the hammer and tells him to take Angle out. Styles hits Angle in the leg and then kicks him out of the ring. And then Aces and Eights, including Styles, all put their hands up. And then the members of the group turn to face the other way to do the same, except for Styles. Styles slowly turns around, and then he hits Doc with the hammer, and then he hits Knox with the hammer, and then he hits Bischoff with the hammer, and leaves the ring before the other members can get to him. And the show ends. Now this was a great segment, and it accomplished two things. It provided the needed ending of the sub-storyline of AJ Styles deciding which side he was going to choose to be on. And of course he chose no side. But it now also begins the sub-storyline of AJ Styles having programs with not just wrestlers from the TNA family, quote unquote, but also with Aces and Eights. But most importantly, the opportunity to build up to a Bully Ray AJ Styles match at Bound for Glory is there. Unless Hogan's ego destroys it. I'm Tazmart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for May 23rd, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button. And if you subscribe, I would appreciate it. I'm an administrator on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, so if you're listening to me there, you can leave a comment below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general that you would like for me to answer, you can get at me on Twitter, TAZMARK2002. And if your comments exceed 140, get at me with an email. Tazmart2002@gmail.com. I thought it was a solid show. And next week, Impact moves back to the 9 o'clock p.m. time slot for the last show before Slammiversary. Now, the time slot change will be beneficial if Spike TV allows it to be. But TNA has to improve the overall presentation in order to show those benefits. It has to be about one company, not one man. I'm Tazmart 2002. Gone.